US President Donald Trump has ruled out allowing Iran to enrich uranium under any nuclear deal. This as Tehran defends what it said was its peaceful pursuit of fuel for power generation. Uranium enrichment has remained a key point of contention in 5 rounds of talks since April to ink a new deal or accord to replace the deal with major powers that Trump abandoned during his first term in 2018. An Axios report said that Washington's offer would let Tehran enrich some of the nuclear fuel. Reacting to the report, Trump on social cleared under the potential agreement, U.S. will not allow any enrichment of uranium. Trump also bashed his predecessor Joe Biden for the impasse, saying the Democrat should have stopped Iran a long time ago from enriching uranium. Axios said the latest proposal that Washington sent to Tehran would allow limited low-level uranium enrichment on Iranian soil for an amount of time that is yet to be determined. Iran has insisted that it has nothing to hide on its nuclear program. Speaking in Cairo, where he met the United Nations Nuclear Watchdog's chief, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said if the goal is to deprive Iran of its peaceful activities, then certainly no agreement will be reached. The remarks came after Grossi of IAEA called for more transparency from Tehran following a leaked report that it showed Tehran had stepped up uranium enrichment. The IAEA report showed that Iran has ramped up production of uranium up to 60%, close to the roughly 90% level needed for atomic weapons. Iran has rejected the report, warning it would retaliate if European powers exploit it. Iran, meanwhile, has pushed for U.S. to drop sanctions that have crippled its economy as a condition for a nuclear agreement with Trump's administration. Araghchi says that he has received elements of the U.S. proposal for a nuclear deal following 5 rounds of talks mediated by Oman. He said Iran would reply to the proposal, but that there would be no agreement unless Tehran's right to uranium enrichment is respected. The New York Times report, citing officials familiar with the diplomatic exchanges, say the proposal calls on Iran to stop all enrichment and suggests creating a regional grouping to produce nuclear power.
We will give a proper response soon, a response based on the principles of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Iranian nation's interests and rights. Definitely there will be no deal unless enrichment inside Iran is recognized and is allowed to continue.
Araghchi also reacted to reports of Israel preparing for an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. He said he does not imagine Israel would make such a mistake, while warning that Netanyahu's government would regret it if it does go ahead with the plan.
I don't imagine Israel would make such a mistake, since if it does, the one who would regret it most would be Israel itself.
Dr. Sayed Emamian is an assistant professor at Tehran Polytechnic and founder and former director of the governance and policy think tank. Is now joining us live on this broadcast. Thank you very much for making time for us, and welcome to the program. There is a possibility that Iran may disagree with the United States proposals and could risk going back to their own initial planning of enriching uranium. How possible is it that Iran would deny United States proposals?
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me here, and it's my pleasure to be with you and with your audiences. Actually, completely unlike the U.S. Unpredictability and uncertainty and policy instability that we have heard a lot of different statements from Trump's team and his representative, and also from officials from his administration, that shows a kind of the inconsistency within the Trump's inner circle. Maybe it's more likely that because of the pressures that are on Trump's team from both Israeli lobby and also neocon Republicans, that they have been to some extent have been away from the negotiation and from the talks. So also there are some possibilities of the Democrats and Biden team that they are trying to make such a situation that the talks goes to be a failure rather than a success. So Trump administration is under such a pressure. So Trump has been seen very unstable and very fluctuating in terms of his own statement and his official statements. At the same time, Iran has been to some extent consistent and very principled in terms of his red lines and conditions for any kind of a deal, having a kind of the enrichment, the right of enrichment recognized, and also it needs to be continued to some extent inside the Iranian territory. But at the same time, Iran has been very clear in terms of being very flexible, very open to any kind of the discussion and dialogue and agreements. So I think there are of course, some possibilities from the Iranian side to be very clear and principled in terms of the enrichment precondition. But at the same time, there are a lot of rooms for maneuver and flexibility. So it depends on what exactly Trump's team is saying behind the scenes and around the table, because it's quite different from what they have said in the media and what they are going to say or to write around the table and in the negotiations. So we could understand the Trump's political context and the pressure that Trump is feeling now because he has failed to bring about any kind of the promises that he has promised during his electoral campaign, whether or not in Gaza, the peace in Gaza that has now been a total failure, and genocidal operation of the Israelis is continuing and is worsening. And also Trump has been failed clearly in terms of the bringing about the peace in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. So Trump needs to bring about some results on the ground. So Iran talks is very important from Trump's point of view, and we could understand the
Professor, let's talk about the talks. Professor, let's talk about the talks now. If the talks do actually break down, what are the repercussions of that, and what could happen in the event that these talks do break down between Iran and the United States? We are talking about Europe issuing sanctions to Iran. How will Iran respond if at all these talks don't go through? Very briefly.
Yeah, as an independent analyst, I could imagine that there would be a possibility of the failure in the talks, something that we have experienced before. Just remember 2018 when Trump's withdrawal from the JCPOA and the maximum pressure went on, and it was clearly a lose-lose kind of the game. Iran has lost a lot of economic growth opportunities, and at the same time, U.S. has lost the opportunities that Iran was very initiative in terms of his nuclear program. So yes, there is of course a possibility for continuous lose-lose kind of the game, but at the same time, everyone is very well prepared for the plan B, and Iran, including Iran. And Iran has talked very clearly that if the talks goes to fail, Iran will go ahead with its nuclear program. At the same time, Iran will continue to work with international community to find some peaceful solution for negotiation. But if there was a kind of this
All right, well, it seems like we've lost the professor at Tehran, Polytechnic founder and former director of the governance and policy think tank. We'll have to leave it there. Professor, thank you.